your place in the Coaching Lounge. Be inspired by discussions with motivational guests, compelling speakers, key people of influence, and models of success. Learn unique processes, strategies, and tips that will transform your life. Tune into previous episodes on www.thecoachinglounge.co.uk. Like our page on Facebook via The Coaching Lounge. Follow us on Twitter @Satellite Coach. Thank you for joining your host, Rebecca Gordon, in The Coaching Lounge. Tune in, relax, engage, and transform your life now. So, we're committed to making an effort with dating. What do we need to look out for?
Yeah, so I think this is a fairly common thing. I think, especially for the listeners out there, maybe you've all reached this point where you're fed up with your dating life, you're ready to make something happen, and you probably said to yourself at some point or another, I am now making an effort. I am now going to really try to make something happen in my dating life. And one of the big problems that I see often when people make this statement is what I call the feast or famine approach to dating. So the feast portion is when you kind of have this self-realization moment where you're recommitting and suddenly you're everywhere. You're social, you're going to parties, maybe you have some online dating profiles, you maybe even trying some dating apps, you're asking friends to set you up, you're out there, you're doing everything. And because of that, you're probably meeting new people. Maybe you're even going on dates, and maybe you're even, after a few months of this, actually in a relationship. And a few months later, that relationship ends, and at the end of that relationship, you're totally exhausted. You here for months now, you've been quote unquote making an effort. Your life is out of balance because you've been focused all over in that part of your life, and maybe your house is a mess, I don't know. But at the end of the day, you're feeling kind of that jaded, bitter, depressed feeling towards dating. And so what you really want to do is just take a break. Have you ever said that? I'm taking a break.
It's like, it's almost as if sometimes the radar is, every person I meet will actually be this horrible, nasty person because, this is the experience I've had. Maybe so you just reverse the process and you take yourself totally out of dating, as you say. Yeah. And I know this is... this is probably, a lot of ladies listening to this are probably quite familiar with this sort of feast or famine approach. So you're saying that's a pitfall to watch out for?
Yeah, well, it's the feast or famine approach to dating. And what you really have to do is have a plan-based effort for dating. And sometimes when I say that to people, they cringe because they're just like, oh, it's going to be so much work. You're asking me to do so much. And I'm really not. A plan-based effort is all about helping you to work smarter, not harder. It's about making strategic decisions, not emotional ones. I call it using logic to motivate you, not loneliness. Because loneliness is it's that weight on your chest. It's that dark place on the weekends that you just want to avoid, that you don't want to feel that anymore. And when that is your core motivator, it can put you into that desperation mode that then leads to yet another failed relationship, yet more disillusionment towards dating, really believing that there are good men out there. There are good people who want love and to love you specifically. And this plan-based effort, one of the aspects of it is that it's not exhausting. It's sustainable, it's balanced, and best of all, it's because it's efficient. You know what you're doing, you know when you're doing it, and you aren't motivated by this, what's going on? I can't be home this weekend. I got to get out of the house, that kind of behavior. And a lot of people, and I don't advocate taking time away from dating to work on yourself. That's another excuse that we use sometimes is, oh, well, I'm taking a break. I'm just going to work on myself
Yeah.
right now. It's basically essentially taking your product off the market, right? And businesses never do that. If you have a smartphone, maybe an iPhone or an Android, and if you looked at the applications, they're always coming out with new versions. They're always coming out with new bug fixes and improvements with the product. And they don't wait until the product is perfect to get it out there. And neither should we. We have to embrace that, just where we are today. We have to start with where we're at. But that doesn't mean we have to take ourselves off the market to like redesign or whatever it means. Like, it's okay for you not to be perfect, because you're still lovable. I think even more because you're not perfect, especially if you're the one that's embracing it and just being like, this is what it is.
And this is why I'm glad that we're having this conversation in the coaching lounge, because these things are just great to hear. It's really affirming to know, actually, well, I am working in process. And like you've said, it's about asking yourself, well, if there's work to be done, well, what bug am I going to fix today? But to know we can still get out there and still, because we have got a lot of love to share. Don, I must ask you, I did say before you came on air that, the way of life that we're experiencing today in terms of what's happening in terms of the world, the economy, etc., it can, and you've said, life can be very challenging, it can be confusing. So how practically can we get beyond gloomy predictions through, the mind style, developing a mind style?
Yeah, what tends to happen with mindset questions, they reinforce. They say what you focus on, you bring into your life. So certainly in terms of relationships, we can start spinning around, this person always does this thing, and they do that thing, and we start we actually become better at spotting what's wrong. Sometimes, I will have conversations with people that are dear to me and close to me, and I'll say something which I think is very, very nice, and that person will come back and say, "Ooh, that's nice, but I'm just waiting for you to sabotage it. I'm just waiting for the dagger. What's the..." or you don't really mean that, or someone will do something for me, and I will interpret it, I wonder what they want, I wonder what the favor is, because I'm stuck in the perception of this relationship, this interaction being negative. And because the way the person presents it, and if we go into if we look at one of the models, so mind style for me, I've used that to create an acronym where M stands for mindfulness, thoughtfulness, and a thoughtful way of thinking. The I in mind style stands for influencing. Some people like to influence, they nudge. I think the government have got this nudge thing going along where they don't tell people to do things, but they create environments that encourage them to do things. The N stands for normalizing, and these are people who like things to be the way they're supposed to be, the normal, within the bracket, not too hot, not too cold, what they call the Goldilocks syndrome. They just want it just right. If it's not right, they're not happy. And the D stands for directing or directive or telling. Now, in general, this isn't a label, but in general, we have ways of being as individuals. Some people are thoughtful, they're reserved. And the negative viewpoint, people say, well, they're quite critical. So if somebody's thoughtful, they might say, oh, have you thought of doing it like that? Oh, that didn't have enough sugar in it. And they'll make a comment that you could perceive as being critical, as being negative. But once you understand that that's that person's style, you can think, oh, they're interested in the quality of the thing. They want to make sure the process is correct. They like to see consistency. So any mind style of these four mind styles can be perceived either negatively or positively. Somebody's an influencer. Moms are normally influencers. They want things to happen a certain way, and they'll encourage and they'll bribe, they'll cajole. But a teenager or a youngster might say, oh, you're just trying to trick me. You're trying to bully me. And in fact, they're trying to persuade or impress or in a nice way to sell something they think is good. So again, the influencing itself is not good or bad. It's the intention behind it.
Right.
I'll give you the other two examples. So again, a normalizer person, they want things to stay as they are. They don't like change. They don't like the status quo being And most people think they're being reserved, they're being cold, or they're people who can be pushed over, they're complacent, they're always sitting on the fence. Whereas others will understand maybe they're trying to see a fence could be seen as a bridge. They're trying to connect two different situations. They're trying to move things gradually. They don't want to have rapid change that will alienate anybody. And the directive person, to finish the set,
yes,
they can often be seen as bossy, telling people what to do, pushy, overbearing. When in fact what they're interested in is the results. They want to get the outcome. They don't want to waste time. And they're happy to take ownership of situations and say, well, look, let me do it. Let me control this because I want it to happen. So they all have what I would call an outgoing and an introspective aspect to different styles. Now, the things we can do there to stop predictions, understand that any way that you can be positive and it can be negative. If you find that you're a thoughtful person and that you like the I's dotted and the T's crossed and everything in its proper place, that may not, and you think that's perfectly right. There might be somebody who likes a little bit of chaos. They like a bit of disorder because they see that as being creative or being free. And we have to understand that the way we think and the way we are can be received negatively and positively. And something, well, how can I make that a benefit to somebody? If they're filling in a form, they'd love you to help them. If they've got to pass some test or there's some quality criteria, or if there's some, you'd very much like your heart surgeon to be very mindful and critical.
So what I'm going to invite you to do right now is to make a note of this, not the question, of your responses to the question. The question is, what do you give gratitude for? And right now, I want you to just write down 5 reasons to be grateful. 5 reasons for what you are grateful for in your life. Write these down and just take that moment to just give gratitude for what you have. And what we do when we give gratitude is that we're opening ourselves up to receive more great and wonderful things in our life, to fill our lives with abundance of what we want more of, because we recognize actually we've been gifted with a lot already, and we give thanks to that. We give thanks for that. You gave energy,
Yep.
by actually pinpointing all the things that you could envisage happening. Great.
Yeah, that was I can't emphasize enough to your viewers, even if it's 2 minutes a day, know where you're going, but visualize it. I've repeated this process for so many massive achievements that I've had in such a short period of time. If people ask, how do you do all this? I visualize it. By the time I've done it, it's already happened 50,
Right.
hundreds of times in my head.
Yeah.
I'm already moving on to the next thing.
Yeah, just creating that picture. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, can you share any alternative strategies? Because we do have different learning styles, so
Yep.
it might be challenging for someone to visualize. What else could you suggest?
Yeah, so I mean, with that, I struggle. Everyone has a different modality that is sort of their preference or a different sense. So I would say if you struggle with actually visualizing, use the sense that you prefer. So, for example, I would like to, within a year, be up on stage in front of thousands of people delivering some sort of motivational workshop, and it's in my head. I'm visualizing it. You have to really use every sense. So if you are more of an auditory person, imagine those people clapping. Imagine what it feels like to stand there. Imagine feeling the confidence, your heart racing with, your excitement. It doesn't necessarily have to be strictly visualizing in that sense, but really, what I do is I write it out. I write like a page or two, drilling into every sense. How does it taste? How does it feel? Do I feel the heat of the lights coming down on me? And am I like sweating a little bit? So however you can hold that image in your mind, it's a very powerful exercise.
Right. So you really move into that feeling, that being in that situation.
The other thing too, if you're in a tough spot, if you do recognize that you have the problem, recognize also that it is a choice.
Right.
And that's the hardest thing. I mean, looking back, I would think to myself, it was this mindset of I'm a victim, I am cursed with this affliction. I I look at that now as that is the best gift I could have in the world. And the reason I say that is because I can approach things with such intensity and focus because I can approach them with that addictive mindset. So I shifted my thinking from, oh, this is a curse to this is the best gift I could possibly have. I can do things with so intensely as long as I stay on the right track and stay away from the things that will hurt me.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is like the biggest thing that I always tell people is there in anything in life, there is never anything wrong with reaching out and asking for help. You have such an amazing gift. I just wish that I had known that before I got to some of the points that I was at. I didn't know who to turn to, and a lot of times people are very embarrassed or scared, and I think that's partly why, some people ask me, aren't you uncomfortable about sharing so openly about your past? And I say no, because I know that by doing so, it might encourage someone else to open up too and not be as ashamed of some of the things they might be struggling with.
There are particular things that we need to remind ourselves that are important to do. So, Abdullah, what we're going to do right now is just talk about some of the
Yes.
practical tools and strategies that anyone can apply and introduce and habitually do as routine practices in their life to support them with, when the going gets tough. You've mentioned
Yes.
grounding, cleansing, and protecting. Let's just start off with some practical tools for doing those three things.
On grounding.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. When you look at the human physical body, there is and had always well, you will see the skeletal column of the being that is to do with strength and holding. So all the joints are to move to hold that which the body enhances. The spine, which is the back, is very, 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 very important to ground yourself, to spiritually raise your vibration, and also to open up your pineal gland, because it is the transmission through which your energy, life force energy, or your kundalini energy moves. So we start grounding through the tailbone, for instance. If you were to sit down or stand up and project your mind to your tailbone, and what you see or feel is that there is a sort of erection coming from the tip of your that looks downwards, i.e. your root chakra. If you look at and visualize and project any light that you are connected with, because you cannot make any error in doing so, your synchronicity is based on your resonance. And any color that you feel is a grounding color for you, I always use very powerful blue or purple, and sometimes I use 3 different colors. But when you project a very powerful color coming from the tailbone and projecting it downwards to the core of the earth, because when the earth moves, your skeletal system also get impacted. You are the earth. So when you connect to the polarities of the earth, when it moves, it will not affect you in a physical way, because you are aligned with it. The movement is aligned. You're moving along with it because you actually pointed at a level of synchronicity with the Lee lines of the matrix. There's a global grid matrix that forms the world.
I understand and I know that word, sound, and power is absolutely crucial because it is that vibration. So, for example, when we, in African names are very meaningful because it's the vibration that's uttered. And I want you to explain how sound vibration works from the perspective of yoga, please, and any link with what I've just mentioned.
Sure. Well, we could start off with something very basic, couldn't we? Whether you drive or whether you don't, or when we're in the shower, even when we begin to sing, you immediately know, you start to get a smile on your face. You start to elevate from the sound. So we can link that directly to what's happening with the vibrations on the roof of our mouth. So you mentioned names. So when we chant mantra, all those elements of sound are included. So if I could give you an example, we have Satnam. So truth is the name, truth is the identity. And if we break that down into its individual sounds, we have the 5 primal sounds themselves. Sa, ta, na, ma. So we have that s sound, the t, the n, the m, and the ah that comes through all of them.
Okay, yes.
So Satanama, we have this cycle of life, of death, of rebirth. So when we're chanting something like that, we're actually in nature itself, in that constant vibration of everything having a beginning, coming into fruition, and of course needing to pass so that it can be reborn again. So as you make those sounds, and I'd invite you to, if you would like to, to do that. Sa, ta, na, ma. Sa, ta, na, ma. And you'll be able to feel that your tongue moves in different places on the roof of your mouth. Your lips make a different shape. And we're actually stimulating the 84 meridians on the roof of the mouth, which are then directly in connection with your glandular and endocrine systems. So you're rebalancing your whole brain function by the sound vibration.
It's quite interesting you speaking about what coaching is not, because I've come across a few times where coaching can be confused with counselling or therapy or even mentoring, as you mentioned earlier. So now that you've explained one of the things that coaching is not, can you tell us exactly what coaching is?
Okay, yes. Just touching on what you've said, and those are great points to raise up, those 3 distinct disciplines. So counselling supports someone with what's happened in a past experience up to the present moment. So it helps one with understanding, awareness, and the thinking processes of understanding what's happened, and to put that in context with where they are at the moment. Mentoring is a second pathway, and mentoring is much more directive. So in a mentoring relationship, where I may see someone who I can see actually where they're going is actually not down the right road, I can really be more directive and more more prominent, if you like, in actually categories, saying, well, actually, I would give this advice to you, or say that this might be what you should do in this situation, and have that sort of like exploration where it's much more directive. And then with coaching is, it's sort of like from midway to the extreme of non-directive, where you're going through a questioning process to take someone from where they are to where they want to be. So it's about goal setting, it's about increasing your confidence, your self-awareness, your ability, and your practical management of getting yourself from here to over there, if you like. And I'm just going to very quickly give a great story, which is a video that I saw once, and it was of a group of American football players, and they were on this pitch. They didn't really want to be there, and the coach says, okay, you know, you're here, let's get going and get some practice in. So he actually asked two young men to come forward to do some training, and he said, you're going to go from here and you're going to move forward. And they didn't think that they could do it. So what he did was that he blindfolded one of them, and he said, kneel down, kneel down. Blindfolded him, and he kneeled down. And what happened was that he actually put another person on his back. So he was actually carrying someone blindfolded, kneeling down and carrying someone on his back to get to the end goal, to the end post. And the coach was saying, come on, you can do it. You've got what it takes. You know, you can do it. You can get there. Just a little more further, just a little more further. And the person who was blindfolded was about to give up, and the coach says, no, you're here, you know, think about this, you know, you've told me that this is what you want to do, you're aware of this, you know, and really supporting him. And when the guy eventually said, I can't go any further, and the coach pushed him to go a bit further and really encouraged him, they stopped, he took off his blindfold, and he was just a feet or two away from the goalpost, so he actually got there. So that's what coaching does. It helps an individual to get from one part of their life to an advanced part of their life much quicker and faster than if they had worked alone.
We commit to helping you accelerate your success through coaching and training. When you work with us, you can expect to have massive achievement in your personal and professional life. Visit www.satellitelifecoachingandtraining.com, choose your slot for your free discovery coaching session, and start your transformation today.